budget update from the mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Shipley. Today, what our objective is today is one is to deal with the financing plans for capital projects, the Justice Center, and then the capital projects that the school system, the building program, the school system submitted a couple of weeks ago. And then I'll also, after that, I'll submit you some items in the general fund that I think we're at the point where it's time to make some decisions on that, and I'll discuss those with you at the time. Let's see, Chris Bessler with Cumberland Securities, who's our finance director, financial advisors. Chris is here. He and I have been working for the past 2 weeks on different options on how to finance, whether it be refinancing or not. To finance the jail project or the Justice Center project, and then the school building requests as well. And what you have in front of you and what we'll talk about this afternoon are the options that he and I have come up with. And there's 3 options that involve refinancing, and there's 3 that don't. And we'll go over some of the details over those. The one sheet, this sheet here is a summary sheet that Chris prepared. It kind of puts everything in a nutshell, and then the details are in the PowerPoint, in the charts in the PowerPoint that we'll go over. So let's get started. Here's where we are today. And last week we made our big debt payments for fiscal year 16-17. So going forward, next fiscal year, here's our debt service schedule. We have big payments in 2018 and 2019, and then the 2009 bonds, which are the bonds that we're looking at whether to refinance or not, are the big red column. The big red column are part of the column the payment on the 2009 bonds, and so there's significant payments the next 2 years, and that's the issue that we're looking at, whether we should refinance or not. So that's what we're looking at right now, with no additional financing, no additional bond issues. Now, they're going into this, all right. There's some assumptions made. We don't know decisions, that'll be made in the future, so we made some assumptions. So I want to go over the assumptions with you because they're in the purview of your all's decision making. All right, as far as what is being financed, there's $35 million for a Justice Center project. $35 million, 448 beds, the core for 500, the 3 courtrooms, the 1 multi-purpose room, and minor renovations to the existing Justice Center that we went over, a month ago. So that $35 million is in this, okay? And then the Board of Education's request for $23.85 million, which is the Fairview Marguerite School and the West High projects. So that's funding them fully, okay? Those are the assumptions. The bond issues would take place over a 50-month period. It's not something we would do right away. It's something that we would do in stages over a 50-month period. We would finance the projects in fixed-rate debt and level payment debt. We're not talking about any variable rate debt. All right, option 1. The option 1s are about refinancing. All right, there's option 1A, 1B, 1C, and you'll see those. All right, it's refinancing the 2009 bonds, which would be $7,630,000, and then extend those 09 bonds by 20 years. And then that plan must be submitted to the Comptroller's office. All right, so that's the assumption on option 1. option 1A, B, and C. On options 2A, B, and C, there's no refinancing. Okay, and you'll see on the summary page that the bonds would be issued over a 30-year period. The early issues would be over a 30-year period. The later issues would be over a 25-year period. So if you look at the summary sheet, look at that under the options 2 at the bottom of the page. The issues that would take place in 2017, 18, and 19 would have 30-year maturities. And then 20, 21, 22 would be 25-year maturities. And we played with those numbers to see how that would work with our debt service and the impact on the tax rate. And those two numbers worked out the best, the 30-year maturity and the 25-year maturity. So those are assumptions. Are there any questions on the assumptions that we made? Okay.
On 2C, this is like 2C, the 17-cent tax increase starts
This
this year.
Another assumption.
Do you know how much interest you would be saving on some of these bonds by refinancing? Because some of those bonds probably have been paid during when the interest was real high.
I couldn't quite hear the question, actually.
I was wondering if you knew how much interest we would save on some of these bonds if we refinanced them at a lower rate.
On the existing bonds that the county has outstanding, none of the bonds are actually callable right now, and that just has to do with they were issued over a shorter period of time. So unlike a home mortgage, which you can refinance literally 1 month after you take it out, on tax-exempt municipal bonds, to get the lower rates, you generally have to go out and put what's called a redemption provision on it that says you'll not call those bonds for 10 years or 8 years or 12 years. So an investor has a reasonable amount of time to expect to actually earn that interest. And for that, you get a lower interest rate. So right now, to be able to do that, you would just have to issue refunding bonds that would have enough debt or have enough proceeds to pay the debt service until the old bonds actually pay off. You wouldn't be calling them in early on that. So typically, you're not gonna save any money doing that. That's what the first option is taking out the 2009 bonds. It's just stretching them out 20 years.
Actually, I think, Chris, you correct me if I'm wrong, by extending the life of those bonds by 20 years, we're really increasing our interest costs. We're increasing our interest costs. It's for cash flow. It's for cash flow purposes.
Yeah, it's just a cash flow purpose, only because in the paper notice said we'd save money, but we would not save any money.
It would cost us
Taxpayers
more.
would still, in the long run, would pay more.
Right.
Yep, I kind of hate to refinance these for 30 years down the road when we can get them paid off in 2 years. The thing is, what would happen if we kept them the way we had now? And I know we need the money for the jail. Get the money for the jail with a deferred payment on that for 2 years or 3 years or.
Let us finish all the options,
Okay.
and then we'll address that, because we may answer your question.
All right.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. You've got this summary. Okay, you've got that in front of you. And basically you can see under options 1, which are the top of the page, option 1A, and we'll get to the charts here in a minute. All right, you would refinance the 2009 bonds. You refinance those for 20 years, and you transfer $2 million out of debt service to the general fund. That's about 14 cents. Okay? So you would move 14 cents from the debt service to the general fund. All right? And no tax increase. And then what this looks like is this right here. Okay? Is without a tax increase, see that black line is your fund balance. So we would move $2 million. Right now, revenue in the debt service is about $5.4 million. So we would move 2 million of it, where our revenue would only be 3.4 million, the first 2 years, our payments would go down. That's those two big payments for the 2009 bond. And then our payments would exceed our revenue without a tax increase. So our fund balance just tanks. So, so from a financial standpoint, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That's my opinion. Okay, now, that's 1A. Okay, that's 1A. 1B is you would transfer the 2 million, all right, to the general fund, and that creates the cash flow. But to finance the new projects, it would take 14 cents. And so that goes here. All right, so you, the 14 cents brings you back up to the 5.4 million in revenue. So you build fund balance those first 3 years, and then you use fund balance for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and it goes down to about 2 million, and then you've got enough revenue to cover your payments. You know, Commissioner Jarvis was talking about, you know, having a payment, you know, between the 4 and 5 million mark. It works right here, and that's all new debt. Okay, that's all the new debt. Schools, the schools and the Justice Center. That's all this is new debt. So it gets it down to where what he was talking about. Okay, but we have to pay our existing debt plus some here. So 14 cent. We move the 2 million into the general fund, which takes care of the general fund. Okay, with a few cuts you guys would have to make to what's on the table right now. And then you would have to raise 14 cents in debt service. Plus submit the refinancing to the comptroller's office. Okay. Then 1C is this. All right, it is, it's no money transfer, which defeats the purpose of the, in my opinion, defeats the purpose of the refinancing if you don't move any money. Okay? No tax increase, so your revenue stays at 5.4, and your fund balance is a little healthier that way. But then all your tax increases will have to be in the general fund. So this is a refinancing that doesn't accomplish the cash flow needs of the general fund that have been discussed. So let's look at your summary sheet too. Let's look at how the proceeds would be distributed. All right, under options 1, you would have in year 1, in 2017, you would issue $10 million. And the reason 10 million is a key number is that keeps it bank qualified, which means that banks would purchase these bonds. They get special tax incentives for doing it, and Chris can probably do a much better job describing it. I'm doing a bank qualified 101 here, and we can get lower interest rates if we keep it at 10 million or less. That's why 10 million is the threshold that we're trying to keep these issues at, so that we get a better interest rate. So under option 1, the refinancing would get the 7.6 million of the 10. The Justice Center project would get 1.8 million, which would take care of the planning part of it and some property acquisition, and then the schools would get planning money of $500,000. Which isn't all they ask for planning. And then in the subsequent years, the Justice Center takes priority for 18, 19, and 20. Those issues go for the Justice Center project, and then in 21 and 22, the issues are for the schools. that's the options one. Any questions on options one before I go to two?
Well,
Yes.
I mean, will can the school board live with pushing it off that far?
That's a question. I haven't talked to them about it. This is the first time they've seen it. That's why I asked them to be. First time I've seen it.
No comment on that. Okay.
Gives us a place to start talking deliberation with the board.
Any other questions? Okay, option two. Under option two, and we'll go to the charts here in a second, there's 6 issues over 50 months. You start with 8.8 million, then have 5 $10 million issues for a total of 58,850. 35 million for Justice Center and 23,850 for the schools. As you can see, the schools get a bigger chunk at first. They could do some of the West High projects, do planning, and do maybe one of the West High 2B, not 2B, 3. One of them anyway. So that would give them some more money to work with to start with.
You saying we wouldn't need the full amount on the jail until 2020, the last 10 million, is that right?
Yeah, it takes a year. I asked our architect, okay, what's the timeline? If we decided in the next 60 days what we wanted to do, they would start their planning process and drawing the plans where they would bid the project next summer. Construction would start, say, in August, I think, of 2018. Would take 2 years. Okay. All right, 2A. Here is issuing the $8 million in year one and then $10 million after that. No tax increase. You see by 2025, no money moved. The 5.4 million stays the same. By 2025, well, before that, 2024, your fund balance is in the negative. So that's with no tax increase, no transfer of funds. 2B is a 3-cent tax increase. So that would take the revenue right around 5.8 million. And so you would have a couple of years that we would use fund balance, which those 2 big payments on the 2009 bonds. And then, so the fund balance would get down to about 2 million. Then you would build fund balance for a couple of years. And then you would use fund balance through 2025, and then your payments get down under 5 million, and you build fund balance. Or you can move tax rates to other projects, or you could reduce the tax rate. So that's option 2B. That's a 3-cent tax increase. Then option 2C is you would move $2 million. You would move $2 million from just cash, move $2 million, would actually be tax rate. 14 cents to general fund to take care of the general fund and its deficit, and then raise the tax rate 17 cents, which is basically the 14 cents to replace what you moved, and then 3 cents for the new project. So the fund balance stays a little better there, but overall you wouldn't have, in this plan, you wouldn't have any increase in the general fund tax rate, so all your tax rate increase would be in debt service.
each of these funds, will it take us a little longer as to vote whether or not we accept it, that you've got to send it to the controller?
Well, as soon as you guys approve one of these plans, we would send it.
And then probably how long will it take?
How long would it take to respond? If we did a refinance, this is it.
So if you wanted to go, the only one that you'd have to submit request for a report from the comptroller's office would be on option 1, refinancing the 2009 bonds and extending those out. Tennessee Code Annotated says that they've got 15 days from the date of submission to respond to that, but we would expect substantial pushback from the comptroller's office on that plan. So they can extend that out. Technically, they can extend it out indefinitely.
And then we couldn't do anything until we hear from them, right?
At that point, we would be entering some new territory, and we'd have to work with bond counsel, the county's bond counsel, and work through that.
But that's just on the refinance.
That's only on the refinancing. All the new money that it has been set up and structured is such that it qualifies as level debt. It falls within the bounds of what the county is allowed to do on its own and does not require any authorization or permission outside of the legislative body. But the refinancing requires that extra step.
Let me ask you, which plan, in your opinion, is the best plan to do what we need to do?
What do we need to do?
Our recommendation would probably be in option 2, either option 2B or 2C. There could be some strategic reasons to go ahead and transfer funds from the debt service to the general fund every year going forward and increase the debt service to by 17 cents, and that way you don't have to raise taxes in the general fund. If you look at the charts on, pick one of the charts, 1B and 1C, and look at the difference between the line. You'll be able to go to one of those. Either one of them would be fine, like 1A or 1B. Yeah, okay. So if you look at the red line there, that's your revenue coming in, and you look at your debt service bars there, there's very little, what's that, about $400,000 difference between what your revenues are and what your expenses are, and that goes all the way out to 2037. So for the next 20 years, you're going to be very tight on what you can get done because you're taking those 2009 bonds and extending those out 20 years. And then maybe 2B or C, I don't know those, 2B and 2C. And then here, instead of having to wait till 2037, you're going to start to have a much bigger spread. It's almost $2 million between the revenue and your debt service as soon as 2027. So that allows you to deal with other capital projects that the county may have. Pending growth in the schools, and you've got, another middle school, another elementary school, whatever you've got to build, you might be able to deal with that much, more readily and with more flexibility under one of those scenarios right there where you've got more to deal with that sooner. Additionally, with the recommendation, the county currently has a AA3 and a AA- credit rating by the credit rating agencies, by Moody's and S&P, and both of those have expressed concern about utilization of fund balance to make up any shortfalls by using your fund balance to balance the budget, either just the operating budget or the debt service budget. So that would be another reason to recommend option 2 and not refinance, and look at that, because they would look at that refinancing as solely for cash flow purposes. So there's no economic savings. So it's like somebody who's got a doing a car loan instead of doing that over 5 years, like a lot of people would do, trying to stretch that out over 15 years. I mean, it would be the equivalent way. Most people would look at that and say, you don't want to finance a car over 15 years.
Any other questions?
Tim, did we answer your question?
Pretty much, yeah. Thank you.
And we're assuming that everything that, we're looking at, in the current budget as it's presented and covered here, we're not looking at any, like you're assuming that everybody gets everything they've asked for. Is that what I'm
Well,
saying?
about, the deficit right now in the general fund is 2,255,000 or 25? 55, and, yeah, that's the next one.
What kind of tax increase would it take for that?
For that,
Yeah.
14?
And then the 17 on
That's assuming that we make no cuts.
Correct. Any other questions on the debt before I go financial? Any questions of Chris? I promised he could leave after we get through. Anything? Anybody? Okay. And what this sheet is what I tried to do was compile a list of items in the general fund budget that need a decision, one way or the other, whether to fund it or not, or partially fund it. So at the top of the sheet, you'll see the deficit. Where we stand right now is at $2,255,000. That's where the deficit is in the general fund. Under the revenue side, there's the option of moving pennies from the school general purpose fund, if you choose to do that, up to 4 cents. That's $540,000. That's not calculated in that $2.2 million deficit. There's the litigation tax for court security that is in the budget that you would need to approve. Right now, the tax is at $10. The proposal is to increase it to $25. It takes a 2/3 majority of the commission to do that. If you don't pass it, then that just adds to the deficit, because that's a revenue number. Okay, so that's something that we need a decision on. And then under operations, you have the COLA, the 1% COLA, the longevity, the codes enforcement officer, the jail diversion, ankle monitors, domestic violence classes that are all in one line, the coroner's increase, the Humane Society operational increase, the Joint Economic Development Board increase, the library, Helping Hands Clinic, 911. Those were all increases. And if there's any other increase that you want the budget committee to vote on, then all you have to do is just call me, we can add it to the list. Then under capital, here's all the capital requests in the electronic poll books, the plexiglass, the Humane Society, the video arraignment system, the body cameras and dash cameras, the vehicles for the sheriff's department, and the lighting upgrade at the intersection. And then under debt service, the litigation tax for jail construction, to increase that from $10 to $25 also needs your approval. It's in the debt service budget, but it needs your approval by 2/3 vote. So this is what I would like for you to consider. Is we're not going to meet Thursday. Is next Tuesday you come ready to vote on these items, and anything else that you think the committee needs to vote on. And then, if, I would like for you to also to choose an option for financing. It doesn't mean, if you choose, one thing I want to make crystal clear is, if you, let's say you choose option 2B, let's say. You choose option 2B, that doesn't mean that you're committed to funding $35 million to the Justice Center project and $23.8 million to the schools. But that gives us some direction on where to go, and basically it says, you know, we're going to increase the tax rate for debt service by 3 cents. And then we can put the budget together based on that. But that doesn't commit you to those numbers, because over the 50-month period, we can adjust how much in bonds we issue based on what bids come back with, the negotiation on the architectural fee for the Justice Center, because we haven't done that yet, and different factors. So it does not commit you to anything like that. Or if you do vote for option 1 of those options, then we've got to move and get that plan to the comptroller. So, Mr. Chairman, that's what I'm asking for next Tuesday.
Any questions? Any other business that we need to consider? He wants us to come back next Tuesday prepared to vote. Okay. We have a motion to adjourn. Second. We have a second. We're adjourned.